Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest on the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. It's the second part of a two-part series. We brought Dr. Ginette Collazo back on the line. She's CEO of Human Error Solutions and also author of one of our most recent business leaders books. I'm so thrilled to have you back on the line, Ginette. Welcome back.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here to continue with our stories and to be sharing, all of these good things that we're doing because it's very exciting and I'm very motivated and happy with what we're doing.
I'm excited. So I know you came back from a media tour. You've been doing promo. You got a lot of things. Launched a podcast. I mean, we've been doing a lot of things together and it's just been a thrill working with you. So we'll get into all of that, of course, and more. But first, we'll start this episode the way that we start them all with our Mission Matters Minute. So Ginette, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Ginette, what mission matters to you?
My mission is to live in a world where we can be the best that we can be, that we can do things correctly, and that we can be successful. And one of those things is to reduce human error, especially when we're talking about, companies and the things that we do at work. Of course, in our life as well. But my mission is to provide with solutions so we are successful. At the end of the day, that's what we want to do.
So, Ginette, first off, you've been on this media tour. You've been going on radio. You've been doing all kinds of stuff. I mean, fill me in. I know we don't get to catch up as much as I'd like because you're busy. I'm always trying to get a hold of you. I'm like, Ginette, come on. You say you're doing this, that. Yes. Send me some links. Send me some content. Let me share. What's been going on? We're catching up here.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we did recently we did a media tour and we wanted to share, the launch of the book and also the launch of the podcast. And we were, basically going through different media companies and sharing that, when you have a story and when you have a good story to tell, you should put yourself out there. You should be able to let people know, look, we are doing this and these are the things that we are sharing. So it was a very good opportunity to talk about, what we do as a company in Human Error Solutions, but especially, the messages that we're sending with the book and with the podcast, because it's at the end of the day, it's information that you can use. It's not a novel, even though those are entertaining. It's tools, it's techniques, are things that you can put in place. And we did some radio interviews and so TV interviews, and we were sharing basically, what we've been doing with Mission Matters, which is an amazing opportunity and an amazing, actually, what you guys do is very good because not everybody has that voice that will help people share their stories. And the fact that you take those stories and amplify them is a real help for people like me that are trying to get information out there and to share what has made us very successful. Oh, wow. Well, media tours are usually, if you like the cameras, and I do. So I like radio.
It's okay. You're on camera now. It's okay. I like to let people behind the scenes of what it takes to actually do this. It's fun to me. Yes, I don't know. Yes. Was it fun?
Yes. For me, it was fun. What I discovered because I've done media tours before, but this one in particular I enjoyed a lot more radio and it was very interesting. But when you do a media tour, you just have to make sure that you target the media companies that are going to have an audience for what your message is. It's not random. You have to do this in a very organized way and you have to have a PR and then, coordinate these interviews. Then most of the times you have back-to-back interviews. So it's kind of hectic. And especially if you're doing TV that you have to look, your best. So sometimes, running around, it's a stress. And that's why I like radio better. But it is very interesting. A big difference between radio and TV is that TV only gives you very little time. Airtime is very, very short. But when you're in radio, you have more time to have discussions. And that's the main difference. But it's very good. I encourage everybody that has something to share to contact local media and to put yourself out there and share. You don't know where the next, star of beautiful things in the world are.
Oh, it's amazing. I like to give people kind of a view behind the scenes so they can see like what it takes to get out there and do what you do and what we do. And I'm in your camp on this one. I didn't allow the camera to be turned on for years before the other co-founder here, Chirag, finally was like, no, Adam, we have to do video. I'm like, all right, fine. But I miss those days of like not having to put a suit and tie back on and doing radio and other things. It was a different world, but it's okay.
Yes, but you know what? We take it too seriously also. You want to be presented and all of that, but you don't have to be produced like you're going to shoot a movie in Hollywood. It's starting to become very common, people showing their faces. So that makes it a little easy for people that are camera shy.
So you have another book out there, and I encourage everybody to check out Ginette's Amazon store. They're both listed on there. The first book is in Spanish. I know that you're getting it translated, I believe, still. So that's coming down the line. That being said, like, what does it feel? How did it feel like after your, second release, first release? Not comparing books, but I just mean like you're building a catalog over there. I think it's amazing.
Yes. In my case, which is kind of particular because I created a methodology that didn't exist. So how else am I going to share that methodology? My first book is basically a reference book. It's very technical. It's just talking about the steps on doing human error investigations, identifying the root causes to determine the corrective actions, preventive actions, how to track and train your organizations to make sure, that you are providing people with what they need. And it was a very good experience, but it was very technical. Now, the Mission Matter books is about the experience. It's about the story, the things that led to that book. And it's kind of interesting because even though it was after, it took me to before I wrote the book, the first book, because those are the things that I needed in order for somebody to hear me. And the Mission Matter books talks about those tips. It talks about what you can do to have a successful organization, especially if you focus on people. The most important thing is the fact that companies keep saying that, human resources is your most valuable asset, but don't necessarily mean it, or at least they don't demonstrate it. And that's part of what we talked when we talked about the book. You have to pay attention to people. People are the ones that have the answers. And that's one of the best, advices that I can give to companies. You have the experts. The experts are right there doing the work. Just pay attention to what they have to say. It has been a very good experience. But the first book was basically the solution, but we are going kind of doing backwards engineering a little bit with the process. So it has been very interesting,
It's the prequel. It's like the movie before the
Exactly.
So what has been, just some of the response you've gotten just from whether it's, friends, work, whatever, like what kind of feedback have you gotten so far?
Well, it's very interesting because the other day, again, in the podcast.
I like interesting, Ginette. You got me leaning in here. I'm like, oh, really? Tell me more.
Yes. The other day I had a client. Again, I do human error solutions training. Basically it's a psychology of error. And it was very interesting because one client sent me an email saying, Ginette, why don't you talk about overconfidence? Because we are needing our employees to hear about this. And I'm like, whoa, this is a good way to train them. If they want me to expand on something because they already working with some things, it actually gives me the opportunity to do kind of a continuous education for people that already work with the technologies or the methodologies that I do. So when you have a client saying, look, I want to ask my employees to listen to this particular episode because it's about something that you need to hear. That for me is the best thing. It's not about only, curiosities or sharing things that we learn, but also needs that the organizations have that can actually tell me, Ginette, I want to talk about this. I want you to talk about this. And I'll make sure everybody listens at the site. And that way, we can do that. It's a short amount of time. It's not a 2-day training, concise message. And it allows for that, which is priceless.
So a lot of people will watch this and are watching and, they maybe wanted to write a book or to put out a book. And other than working with Mission Matters, obviously, like, I believe we do great work. Other than that, like, what kind of advice would you give them about, becoming an author and getting their book out there?
Well, first you have to start writing. And that doesn't mean start writing a book. It means start writing about what you do, articles. There is a lot of, web-based magazines, and reach out and say, look, I have this article. I want to put it out. And that way, if it's something that gets the attention. So once you start writing and you start putting your message out there, at some point you're going to be, you feel comfortable enough saying, I'm going to put all of this together, but start small. It could be overwhelming and scary because, and especially these times that no matter what you do or say, they can cancel you. So it's very, very scary. You don't want to say anything or use a word that it's going to be misinterpreted. So that's why I said, take it one step at a time. Also get professionals. In your case, I use Mission Matters, but again, you want to have professionals that are going to look at your content and it's going to make sure that it's appropriate and all of that. So just get yourself out there and don't be scared. Don't be scared. Everybody gets at some point some criticism. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It's somebody else said it. I don't know who, but you need some haters out there. However the saying goes, like you can't please everybody. Like please yourself.
Exactly. And, do what feels comfortable to you. And of course, if you're going to talk about something, make sure you know what you're talking about, just in case, that there are some haters like challenging, be ready, anticipate those things just in case you need to address them. But we don't.
Yeah. What's interesting to me, and I agree with everything you said, and but I'll take the opposite on one thing, and that's because it just wasn't my story. And so you mentioned you have to work with a professional. Now, this might sound odd coming from a publisher, but I don't like my first book. I didn't work with a professional. Like I had a publishing company before Mission Matters was in existence. Like I was a financial advisor and I wanted to get my message out there. And I was like, well, how do I do it? And one of my mentors said, Adam, you got to do a book. I'm like, I don't want to do a book. I don't know anything about books or publishing. I love reading though. I was an avid reader, always been an avid reader. And I just felt like it was so unattainable. Like, do I have something to put in a book? Like, would anybody read it? And what he told me was that, and I still remember this, he says, it's not about like, well, you're going to reach millions and millions of people and you have to be this person speaking or on stage, even if you don't like doing that stuff. Like, that's not the point. The point is you have something to offer the world. Like you have a message, you can say something in a way that's going to resonate with somebody or that they're going to get that the, CEO of, JP Morgan or whatever, Chase, like their message will not get through to that person. It's because we all connect and we feel energy and we all feel energy with different people, right? So your story is going to actually inspire some people that you have no idea now and both down the line. And he was already a published author multiple times, and I didn't believe him. But I do listen to my mentors, like when they have something valid, especially when I don't want to do it, like then that's what I need to do. Probably that's what I need to do, especially then.
No, but you know what?
I didn't know the professional side of it. He said, you could work with a professional, but just get it done no matter what. So I literally, Ginette, I kid you not, I spoke into my phone and that's how the first book was. I spoke into my phone. I just compiled the messages. I sent it to an editor. They kind of pieced it together. It wasn't really like professionally done. The cover is not good, but I leave it out there. It's my ugly duckling and I don't republish it. I don't change it. I do it on purpose. I do because I don't want people to look at what we've built now, many years later, years and years, thousands of hours and many people that put this company together and like talent and blood, sweat and tears to make it what it is now. But it didn't start with that. I was just another person that wanted a book. I put it out there. It's ugly and I won't republish it, even though my team wants us to republish it. But I'm like, no, because I want to be able to point to it and say, look, work with us, don't work with us, do what you got to do. But look at that ugly duckling and look what it turned into. So you have a story and it's not even about that. And let me tell you something, Ginette, with the Ugly Duckling book, which I think it's good content. I just mean the packaging and other things, like it could have been better done. That's all I'm saying. But the content is still me. It's authentic. I believe in it. It's my story, right? But the thing is even from the Ugly Duckling, I got quite a bit of like ancillary things like speaking. I went on a speaking tour. I was asked to speak many stages. A lot of different opportunities came my way because of that. And that was actually the root of this entire company because that's what got the attention and people started asking me, can I help them publish books? And that's where it all began. So on my end, I'm always like, work with a professional if you can and it makes sense for you. But if you can't and it doesn't make sense for you, just get it done.
But let me tell you, your story is exactly the same as mine with my first book. I self-published, and I remember the way I wrote it. I bought it was a long time ago, a software called Dragon or something like that.
That's what I wrote mine on. Are you kidding me? It was Dragon. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. I've never met another. Ginette, see, kindred spirits. I knew it. That was my first book. I wrote it on Dragon. It was the first dictating software that was pretty good.
Yes. And that's exactly what I did. I sat down, I started talking like I was doing a training, and then I edited myself because I didn't have anybody. And remember, my English is my second language. And that's my Ugly Duckling. That's the one that's out there. But it's
oh my God. I had no idea. See, this is why you got to bring guests. For any hosts out there, this is why you got to bring guests on again and do a second interview and get to know your guests, because you get gold like this. Like, that's amazing, Ginette.
It's amazing because it's exactly the same story. I
I can't
remember.
believe it's the same software. And why is Dragon not paying us for this? This is not a commercial. Dragon, you're listening to this.
Let me take a note. Let me take a note.
Oh,
But
okay.
yes, that's how it was. That's how it was.
Spend some time on this podcast, because it, like, for me on your podcast, after we were publishing you and we were getting this out, I, like, on our end, like production side, and Matt Cook, so director of agency on the podcast side, and the rest of the team, like, we saw the work and we're like, yeah, this needs to be a show. Like, we need more from Ginette. We're not letting her go. So the long and the short of it is, we got Ginette on our network to host a show, and thrilled, and the content's coming out amazing. And I'm just so excited to support and help develop it, and to do all we can do to spread the message about it. But just an introduction for those that maybe haven't heard of it yet. Tell us a little bit more about your vision for the show.
Well, the vision of the show is basically to start talking about the whys. Once you start listening about things, and I'll give you an example in a minute, then you get curious for more things. And the podcast, the show, is about asking why for certain things. And, one of the things that I talk about, there is one episode that is very fun. It talks about, that even though we are all humans and we're all different, 70% of us around the globe like the color blue and the number 7. So we're not that different, which could explain, the use of blue for logos and all of that. We talk about, why, when you enter a building, your bias is going to guide you to turn right because you're right-handed. That's how the brain works. And that's why the lines are longer on the right side. It's all of these curiosities. And actually, sometimes it's useless information, but it's very interesting. And it expands to things that can be useful. So in the Power of Why, we talk about why are we behaving the way we are in the workplace? What are the things that makes us, feel motivated? When the last episode is A Tale of Two Bosses. And that's a very interesting episode because I compare side by side two bosses. It was my experience. One of them was good. The other one, I will never forget. I'm just going to say that. And then I compare, what makes the difference? They both had the same missions, the same goals, but how they got to their results is totally different. And those are the kinds of things that we discuss. So A Tale of Two Bosses is the story of two people that needed to achieve exactly the same results, and how the way they did it made a total difference in the end results. And those are the kinds of things that we talk about. People identify themselves.
I know you've been interviewed quite a few times, and obviously you're in the media. I know that, but I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is this your first show that you're hosting as a podcast?
Yes.
I love it. I thought so. I just didn't want to misquote that. But how do you feel now that you're on the other side of the mic as a host? You're always used to being on the other side. Now you're on the other side of the mic as a host. How do you feel?
I love it. But here's the thing. I don't do too many interviews, and I'm going to do more, I promise. But one of the things about doing interviews is that you have to learn a little bit, how to keep your, the conversation going and all of those things. So that's a little different, because when you're being interviewed, you just answer the questions. And if you have the answers,
you make me do all the work. Yeah, now you have to do the work. That's what happens.
Exactly. So most of the times, most of them are kind of just myself talking. When I talk, this is how I do it. I imagine somebody's interviewing me, and I ask myself the same questions that somebody might be asking me. And that's how I get myself talking to myself. It's kind of a different experience, but I love it. I love it because you can guide your message. There is no detours that are going to take your message towards the wrong road. So you have full control, and that is very good. And I love it. I think that I never thought that I was going to be doing something like this. And actually, it takes me back to what we were talking about, the book. I thought about it many times. I thought I couldn't do it. I was so scared, but then it was like, holding hands, and this has been a very good experience. Actually, this whole to Mission Matters, because if it wasn't because you guys were holding my hand, probably I wouldn't do it. And I'm very happy I'm doing it. I'm enjoying it, and it's amazing.
This question is a shameless plug for my team. How's it work with Matt and the team?
Oh my God. They're amazing. They
are, aren't they? I don't know how we have them. We're so lucky.
Yeah, it was so funny. This happened once. Here I am trying to set up my microphone. Okay. So Ginette It's technologically challenged. It's not that easy for me. So here I am trying and it's not working. The thing is that I go into the Facebook group and I'm like, help, my mic is, and 2 minutes. Not even 2 minutes. I'm answering the phone, and it's Mike. Like, Ginette, take your microphone. I'm gonna guide you through it. It was amazing. So you guys
and for the audience, just so you know, for the audience, we have a private Facebook group that only our show hosts for our podcast network are part of. So that's what Jeanette's talking about when she says.
So it was like immediate. I'm like, well, I thought you were gonna answer it, tomorrow, but it was immediate. So it's great.
Yeah.
The good thing is that you know what you're talking about. So it's very easy to anticipate the needs of podcasters. And again, it's very popular. A lot of people are doing podcasts, but it does have a structure, and there is technicalities that need to be taken into consideration. It's not that, it's easy. You can actually start doing it right now and, then improve over time. But the thing, your team is so available and so open to questions, and also not worried about saying no. I remember at some point I was like, I don't know if I like that color. And they were like, well, that's the color. Because that's the one that works. I'm like, okay.
Well, it's a network, so that's the way networks work. I mean, there's pros and cons of both, right? Like,
but that's amazing. It's one of those things that you see there is a reason. Now they explain why,
it's
and
good.
I
it's
understand.
fun, and I just had to give them a shout out because they love you.
Yes.
Like in the back, we talk about your show and like when we're doing things, and they love you, and I had to give that shout out because it's definitely reciprocal. Like, and all our podcast hosts, we definitely appreciate the effort that they put into their content, and we're definitely putting all that we can into our side of the deal, which is producing and getting the shows out and being that source to make sure that we have a really good product that represents yourself and your brand well, and ours as well. And ultimately, it's for the audience, right? It's to great content
absolutely.
So that the audience benefits from it. Like, that's where all of our minds are at. That's the end result of all that work and all those things. But I had to bring that up. So thank you for that story.
And the experience has been very rich. Not only that, there is a social environment that has been created as well. So, another thing about me is that and this was something that came up in one of my interviews in the media tour, because I have a very bad relationship with social media. I hate it. And I know I shouldn't. I'm trying to fall in love again, but social media has created
you're all over it because we put you
solutions.
all over it. So it might not, you might not love it, but it loves you.
So that's another thing, because just like me, there is a lot of people that, try to stay away from it. And, the fact that I have been in a situation in which I have to learn has given me a different, perspective. And you have to put yourself out there. It's the only way. That's how it goes. So that help also has been very good. So, I have to do the Instagram and the other. But at the end of the day, it gets you closer to your audience. And that's the beauty of it. So if only for that reason, I'm loving it again.
Yeah. Well, I always say if you could do one thing great, then on any of these platforms, then all the best, like focus on one, but you're already doing two. You're an author, and then you also have a podcast that's active and running and with a growing audience. So, you're doing two things great. I say, don't put too much pressure on all the rest of the stuff. We got you covered. You're definitely all over social media. Everything we've done is more than you know. So all good there. Ginette, I do want to jump around a bit here. So I wanted to spend a moment or two. I know maybe some of our newer audience didn't catch some of the previous work we've done together. Maybe just take a moment or two and tell us a little bit more about your firm, Human Error Solutions.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, Human Error Solutions is a company that was funded. It was created like 13 years ago because I was working in the pharmaceutical manufacturing industry. I had, the training department. That was my responsibility. And at some point it became a problem because every human error that occurred, they tried to solve it with training. And training was not necessarily the answer. So I took it upon myself to try to explain errors besides a lack of knowledge, skill, or ability, because that's what training gives you. You can't, teach to have more, memory. You can exercise your brain and that will, help. But at some point there was not, when I tried to find somebody to help me, I didn't. And what you do when you don't have a solution for something is that you create it. You know, if you understand the problem and you don't have a solution, then you create it. That's what you do. And that's what I did. So when I decided to put my private practice, I really thought, and this was very interesting because it was a solo practitioner, right? I remember having my first office and going there. My expectation was that it was going to be something that I was going to do only in Puerto Rico, right? So I was living in Puerto Rico. It's a small island. I can help the companies here, but less than a year, I was like, okay, I need more people, and I'm traveling the world. Who knew?
Wow.
Who knew?
Yeah.
So that's what we do. We train companies on how to do human error investigations to make sure that things that go wrong don't go wrong again.
Yeah.
And also we try to provide them with techniques so you can design errors out before they occur, especially when we're talking about very, very dangerous type of situations. Okay. We're talking about refineries, production, nuclear, pharmaceuticals. You make mistakes there, so you can kill a lot of people. It's not just that I had a wrong, calculation. That wrong calculation can make a difference between an explosion or not. So, and that's what we do. We provide human error solutions for companies around the globe in whatever their industry is. At the end of the day, it's people. And like I said, people, we are all different, but we are very similar. And methodology is basically applied to everything. So that's what we do.
That's great, Ginette. And for the audience, we'll be putting links so that you can also go and check out that first interview that Ginette and I did, where we do a deep dive into human error solutions. But I wanted to make sure we brought it up, at least in this interview. And that being said, Ginette, we're about out of time on this one. Until the next one we do, I know we'll be doing more interviews. Still tuned into your show. I mean, it's amazing the work you're doing. I can't wait. And you better stop hiding all that media for yourself. You better send me more emails. I know you're busy. Get your PR people. Send me emails, because I want to make sure we're sharing this for you too. But that being said, if somebody's watching this and they want to follow up to learn more about human error solutions or just to connect with you and your team in general, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, they can go to humanerrorsolutions.com. I also have the Human Error Solutions page on LinkedIn, my page in LinkedIn, Ginette Collazo. And also we have Instagram, The Power of Why Podcast, and Facebook, The Power of Why Podcast. So there you go. I have it.
Fantastic. And we're going to have a lot of links for people to click on, but everybody watching this, definitely The Power of Why. Go check it out. Hit subscribe. It's on Apple, Spotify, you name it. It's everywhere. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters or engaging with the platform, we're all about bringing on entrepreneurs, executives, and experts and having them share their mission, the reason behind their mission, why they do what they do, how they're doing it, and what we can all learn from that and how we can all grow together. If that's the type of content that you're into or sounds interesting or fun, hit that subscribe button, because we have many more mission-based individuals just like Ginette coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. Ginette, thank you so much again for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure.
It's a pleasure for me. Thank you so much. And we'll continue to do this. There is a lot of things that we can talk about. So thank you so much.